This week on the Orange Box Podcast, we talk about the Gears of War remaster coming soon, the leaked images of the Xbox handheld, Horizon 3 coming in 2027, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to that beautiful bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 84. I am your host, the man who wishes Expedition 33's minigames were as good as the music that plays during them, Mason, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who will, if he has not already, feel Gustav's pain at using the password to SGA's domain, Justin, better known as I'm Zarakon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
It's been, excuse me, pretty good. Some smaller things have happened, and just being busy with a few other things, and just a lot of stuff trying to figure things out. So, I guess first off, I got my Mac back, and I initially thought that they were going to be putting the data on, a SATA internal drive, but they put all the data on an external drive. So because of that, it made me sort of reconsider what I was going to do. Originally, like I said last week, I was going to originally just I thought it was going to be an internal drive and just like slap that right in another MacBook and call it a day. But since it's not on an internal drive, I'm trying to decide if I want to, rather than spend the money on, I mean, even though it's most likely just going to be $100 on a similar model, rather than spend that money on a Mac, if I want to just try making a virtual machine, transfer all the data into that virtual machine, and then just do everything I need to that way. But on the other hand, I thought about it. If I want to transfer everything from the external hard drive that had all my virtual instruments and stuff, that unfortunately requires the physical Mac because it was using FireWire. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do that instead or not. So I'm going to try weighing my options right now, and then also still just tinker around with just like setting up a Mac virtual machine, because I've done one for Windows and I think I've done one for Linux, but I've never done one with Mac before, and so that's gonna be completely different from everything on that end. So I'll see there. Um, as a spur of the moment thing, I got back into doing some writing this past week. So just did some of that. Didn't do a whole lot, but just something that I was like, this is something that I feel satisfied with with the work I've done. So I might do a little bit more of that, but I'm not certain. And then I've been working on the next video, and this is completely different from what I thought I was going to be working on, but was working on trying to get that done, doing some editing in there. But then there are two things where I'm doing a bit more editing than I normally do, and so because of that, I'm sort of jumping back and forth between different files, different segment files, just to like get those two clips fully edited. And also I'm also working on a new intro as well, and trying to just like get everything sorted out with that, especially since I was trying to use something, and I also had to like hop into GIMP, which is a image program, and so I've been trying to like, I haven't used that too much, but it's different, but it's also new to me, so
Yeah.
trying to work with that as well. So we'll see what happens there, but I'm trying to hopefully have everything finished by Friday, but it'll just depend on getting everything finalized and whatnot. But yeah, other than that, not really too much has happened with me this week.
Well, I will say right now, GIMP is great. I've been using it for years. Basically, that's how I learned to do photo editing, and I'm by no means an expert, but I like using that program, and that's what I've been using for a really long time. So, even when I had the opportunity to switch over to Photoshop during the time that I was able to use my brother-in-law's Adobe license, I just stuck with GIMP because it's like I am already familiar with it. It's only gotten better over the years, so Good stuff. Well, for my week, one thing I forgot to mention last week, and this is like not gaming related, it's just more kind of like a side thing, but we had our old coffee pot died, and this thing we had for almost 14 years, because we got it we went up to Fairbanks for our second anniversary, and we bought the coffee pot then. We've used it ever since, and then recently it developed a crack in the plastic in the back to where it was leaking out whenever we try to brew coffee. So we finally had to replace it, and we got a new one that thankfully has been working great and has some nice improvements over the one we had for a really long time. So, relatively small thing, but just kind of like end of an era having that for such a long time. But as far as other stuff goes, week has been relatively uneventful. We did music on Sunday. Thankfully, editing the podcast this past week went super smooth because I was like, okay, I need to figure out a way to just take care of any like white noise or like excess breathing, that sort of thing, without having to chop it up because it just took way too long to do. So something that I hadn't even thought to do because I just never had to do it with Premiere, because Premiere I used a completely different thing that was just very fast, is just making a noise gate. And doing that, applying it to that audio track, it made it so that I didn't have to do just about any editing whatsoever. Apart from, occasionally like cutting out lengths of time where we were not talking for a while, or there was like some major flub. But there was nothing like really big last week, so I pretty much just I had it sitting had my laptop sitting on my desk at work so I could listen to it while I was working. If there was anything major that needed to be changed, I changed it, but otherwise I just lined up the music tracks as I went so I didn't have to do them later. Got the whole thing edited before lunch, which was like, that never happens, and it was really nice to be able to do that. The thing that was kind of funny about that, though, is I was not expecting to have time to do anything extra during lunch. I just figured I'd be working on the podcast. So I didn't bring a controller with me, even though I had my laptop. But I did have my mouse, and I was like, well, I guess I could try playing Expedition 33 with a mouse, and it didn't really work so well. I mean, like, it would be fine if I had learned how to play the game that way and I had the right muscle memory and everything, but it's like I'm trying to configure, okay, where do I want to have this particular attack and so on and so forth. But, at this point I think I was probably in the middle of Act 2 at that point, and I just did not, it didn't work so well. And I'll talk more about the game itself later on, but just in terms of generally trying to use my mouse on that was an interesting experience. Doing mouse and keyboard for that. But anyway, otherwise, this weekend, Friday is our 16th anniversary. And unfortunately, I am going to be working that day, but we're doing something for our anniversary. We are visiting the last 2 states in the U.S. that my wife has never been to. Because, I haven't been to the majority of them, but she's been to all but 2, and they're right next to each other. And that's Louisiana and Mississippi. And her sister only has 1 state left to get to, which is Hawaii. But she's going there finally in June. So we are going to beat her sister for my wife at least have all 50 states. I'm nowhere near that, so, and I don't really care. I don't care for me anyway, but yeah, so we're gonna, our friend is going to watch the kids and the pets and house sit for us, and then we're gonna drive down Saturday morning and come back come back on Sunday. I don't know what time we'll be back on Sunday, but since we have a guest room, the friend is gonna stay overnight on Friday, and that way when we're ready to leave in the morning on Saturday, we can just go and not have to, she doesn't have to get up early to get here. She can just already be here. She'll be asleep in the front room, and we can just say goodbye to the kids and then we're gonna kiss him goodbye and head out. So should be fun, good quality time. We'll do something that we have done a couple times on long car rides, and that is listen to what the current trial that Nick Ricada is streaming, is live streaming. He's been live streaming the Karen Reed murder trial, so that's been interesting to listen to. I mean, I enjoy listening to whenever there's those trials with the commentary, because it's just, you get a lot more perspective than you do otherwise. And of course, with Nick Ricada finally having come back to doing YouTube and everything after ultimately not being convicted, but definitely having done what he was accused of doing, he has admitted such, and so on and so forth. But anyway, well, at least the drugs part. I'm not going to speak for him. He can speak for himself. He acknowledges he made dumb mistakes and has learned from them, and now he's sober and with his family, and everything's good. But anyway, enough about that. Yeah, I think that's everything that's going on right now. It's basically just been a lot of normal life. Work is kind of slow at times, and things are kind of boring from that standpoint, but at least I've had some extra gaming time and all that, but we'll get into that. So, what have you been playing this past week?
All right. So, I went back. There's no footage for this one, but I went back to Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep just to see if I could try to knock out a few achievements. And I finally got the hang of the music mini games, which I think they're just what I still feel like they're a bit unforgiving at times, especially since you have to play them on the harder difficulties just to get the achievements. And I'm just like, I just want to be done with this. And the fact that there are like 6 tracks you have to go through, I'm just like, no, once was good enough for me. But I got most of the mini games done. I finally got all the racing ones done. I got the ones for the achievement. I still have to do it for like 2 other characters, but at least I got the initial racing achievements. Unfortunately, fortunately, I don't have to be in first for the other 2 characters. It's just you have to be first for the achievement. The other one, you just have to clear the tracks, and that's it. And so I sort of have to do the same thing, not to perfection, but to similarly with the other characters. So I'll handle that when I get there. I did the sort of volleyball mini game as well. So like I did that one. I wasn't fond of that, but I got that done. Fortunately, that was very short. And then I just did the music one, and I was like, you know what, I've had enough for today, so I put that down. Oh, and actually, I should say another reason why I actually played this was because Saturday, for Mother's Day, I was making ice cream for my sister and my mother, and so because I was making it, I have to stir the batch. I have to stir both batches every hour. And so because of that, I couldn't play anything that would be a long form gaming session. So that's why I had played Kingdom Hearts, because I like played that on my Steam Deck and just did it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah. But then I played some I'm sorry, I just forgot the name here. Satisfactory with the guys again, and the best way to sum up this session was everything went to dust dead, because we were just doing some exploring, and also one of the guys, he died the last time we were playing, and he went to get his gear. So we went out there to get it, and he got jumped by a bunch of animals. And so we said, all right, we're gonna go together. And next thing we know, there are tougher monsters than usual, and they came in pairs, and everything just jumped us, and there was a lot of death going on during that session. And no, then they had to say, okay, now we need to go back and get the gear that we just dropped because we died, and we have to go back and get the gear we originally were trying to get. And it was a nightmare. And then there were monsters that actually spewed radiation, and that was not fun at all. And we got lost, and we're trying to figure our way back to the base, and it was just it was a real nightmare in that regard. But once we finally got our gear, we just said we're booking it. We're not going to stay around here any longer than we need to,
Yeah.
and it was the best thing that we could have done. Um, I mean, we found some interesting stuff here and there, but I think until we are able to research better items, especially with some combat gear and maybe with a few other things, it's just not worth exploring those areas for right now,
Yeah.
just because we are not prepared for that. Um, but yeah, it was fun. Outside of just fear of getting wiped out every 5 seconds. But then I went and played some more Power World, and I really just played this primarily for gameplay footage. Although I did know that there were some new features from some updates that I had missed, so I went to check those out, and it seemed interesting enough. And I also went to try to tackle or at least one of the main bosses of the game, and unfortunately, even though I tried to equip pals that were most suitable for that boss fight, since his pal's weak to water, it still was it still was too difficult for me. And I mean, I even got a new gun as well. Just
Mm.
like I said, all right, this is gonna deal more damage. It's gonna have a faster, um, it's going to have a faster reload than my previous one. And I said this should be fine, but it still just is not good enough right now. So I honestly do not know how you're supposed to manage this in a single player mode, because I know that if you play a multiplayer mode, it should be easier, especially if you can split the aggro between you and other players. But it's just not going well for me at all. And I mean, I thought also that I would be high enough leveled that I could handle this, but unfortunately, that just doesn't seem to be the case right now. So I'll probably just still have to do more exploring, more grinding, level up some more stuff, and also try to find recipes for higher quality gear,
Mm.
because that could possibly help me, because either I'll have higher defense or I'll be able to deal more damage. So we'll just see what happens in that regard. But then lastly, I played some more Expedition 33, and I'm making slow progress. I mean, I played some more, I think, on Thursday, Friday. I played some more of that, and I finished up. I finished up Flying Waters, and then like on Sunday, I picked no, not Sunday. Yeah, Monday, I picked it up again and I played some more, and I got through some of the next area. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's like Red Forest or
Mm-hmm.
not Red Forest, but that area,
Right.
and did some of that. And I this it's getting through some of those enemies is just difficult, because I feel like some of the windows for dodging and parrying are a bit it's harder to judge than it has
Mm-hmm.
been for previous enemies. And especially since some of these enemies have special ailments that they can inflict upon you,
Mm-hmm.
especially with marking. When I get
Yeah.
marked, it's not so funny anymore. I mean, when I mark them, it's cool, but I don't like it when it's done to me. So it's definitely been a bit of a challenge in that area. Oh, and also, I guess sort of as a I guess I'll sort of backtrack. So after doing some of that area, I noted near the end of Flying Water, there is an enemy, one of the giant Neverons.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Yeah.
and so like I know initially I skipped it because they said, "Oh, watch out, this one's careful. Also avoid the giant ones." But I thought maybe I can take it, and so then I went and I challenged it, and I barely got through that fight. And I was very nervous too, because Mael was swallowed by it, and then Lune was
Mm.
swallowed by it, and
Yeah.
then I was thinking, I've made a horrible mistake coming here, haven't I? And it took me a while, and I had to and unfortunately I didn't record this at the time, because I thought, it's probably I'm probably gonna just die in a couple hits. Probably something I have to come back way later. But even though it was very close a couple times, I did manage to beat the boss on the
Mm-hmm.
first try, and
Yeah.
so I thought, okay, that wasn't so bad. But I feel like in the future, I should definitely wait a little longer before I try taking on any of these bosses. And also, I don't know if you can answer this. So when they, I don't know if any of the other giant ones do this as well, but when they attempt to swallow you, how do you avoid that?
You
Because I
can't.
tried dodging it.
You
You
can't
don't.
avoid it. You
Oh,
you can get the person back by breaking that guy, and then he'll spit any members he's swallowed out.
okay. And is it possible to have the entire party swallowed?
I don't know. I've never. I would imagine not, but I've never gotten to that point. The most I've ever had was 2 people swallowed, and even that, I mean, I've fought probably at least 4 or 5 of those things, and most of the time I only get one person swallowed at a time. But I think there may
Yeah.
have been at least once when I had 2 people swallowed. I mean, it was still one at a time, but on separate points.
Yeah, because at first he at first it was only swallowing Mael, and then I know I think it was Lune, and
Hmm.
then like near the end, because I did break it one time and it spat her out,
Hmm.
but then like probably when there was about a tenth of its health left, it had actually swallowed both members, and I thought, oh, this is not going well at all. So I was like hoping if I could just get through like one more turn, I should be able to finish it off. Which fortunately I was able to do so, but
Yeah.
I just got really anxious there because I thought I didn't come all this way through this fight just to like die at the
Yeah.
last possible moments. But that was definitely pretty good. But yeah, I'm still making slow progress in the game. And I really just need to get through this area, and I'm hoping that um it won't be too complicated because the these particular enemies just are not that fun for me right now. But yeah,
Remind me what
that's all that I've
difficulty
been
you're
playing.
playing on.
Um, I think it's normal. I want to
Okay.
say, it's just that. So it's just the biggest thing is trying to get the dodging and parrying down. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes I get it down, but sometimes it's just hard to judge when I need to actually do what I need to do.
Yeah. It can be tricky for sure. I mean, I still don't have everything completely down, even as far as I am in the game. So, but there are times where it's like I'm on fire, and then other times where I'm on fire, like I'm burning up because I get burned. So yeah. All right. What was I gonna say about any of those? Oh yeah. I mean, I don't remember the volleyball mini game in Birth by Sleep because it's been a really long time since I played that. But uh, wait till you experience the volleyball mini game in Expedition 33.
Oh no.
But I'll get to that. All right. So as far as what I've been playing this week, it's really only 2 games. So one of those, the smaller one, of course, is Minecraft Dungeons, which I played with the kids. We ended up trying out a different level. Actually, we tried a couple different levels, one of which we didn't make it through. We were just having problems and people dying too much, and then we were having issues, and so we went and did a different level instead, and we were able to get all the way to the end of the level, but we realized, oh, we need to find an eye of Enderman, in order to get this, because that's what we're supposed to be doing right now, is going to all the levels that are marked and find the eyes of Ender. And so we get all the way to the end, and we haven't found anything. And I realized, maybe we must have missed it earlier in the level. Turns out it was like right near the beginning of the level, but it was going the opposite direction from where it told you. So we were making our way all the way back to the beginning of the level, and then my 2 younger kids decided they were done playing. So my oldest and I just went ahead and kept playing. We found the Enderman, took him out, the 2 of us, and then got our Eye of Ender, and then went to the end of the level and finished it out. So it was good that at least we were able to actually finish a level this time, And I think, like, I don't know if enemies hit harder when you have more people, or if it's just because the two younger ones are less experienced, but it definitely went more smoothly when it was just my oldest and I playing, so it was good. But it's funny, I looked at what the frame rate is for this, and it said that we had, with 4 people playing on the same computer at the same time, went as high as 348 frames per second uncapped. And that's with everything maxed out on my laptop, not even on my desktop.
Oh my goodness.
No frame
Wow.
generation, nothing. It's just like, wow. See, this is an example of a game that's well optimized.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not a
Yeah.
bad looking game by any stretch. It's actually a pretty good looking game. But yeah. Um, I got Minecraft Legends for free. I mean, just the Windows Store version, but it was one of the Amazon Prime free games. And so I was like, what the heck, I'll grab it. And I heard it's actually basically kind of like a Zelda game. It's like, oh, maybe I'll check it out. I mean, I haven't yet, but I might at some point. I mean, it's not that big of an issue for me to install the Windows Store. And, for a free game, sure, maybe I'll try it at some point. But anyway, obviously, the game I have played by far the most this week, well, really the only other game I played is Expedition 33. So last week I was roughly about halfway through Act 2. I think that's where I was last week. I finished the story. So, now the gameplay that's being shown, none of this is spoilery. It's basically just random boss fights, primarily, and it's no story bosses. It's all optional bosses, primarily chromatic enemies. But basically, to kind of summarize without any sort of spoilers whatsoever, think of it as Act 3 is basically like Disc 3 or Disc 4 on an old Final Fantasy game, where you basically just you go to the final boss. And I mean, you can do other stuff. You can do all side quests and whatnot as well, but in terms of story, there's nothing but going to the final boss. So, I didn't go to the final boss right away, but I did, after a while, do the final boss, and basically after I had exhausted some of the main things that needed to be done before the final boss. And so I did that, and I beat the game, what was that, Monday, I think? Yeah, I beat the story, I believe, on Monday. And I'm not going to say anything about how everything went with the story other than, as with any game, when I finish the story, unless it gives me an incentive to continue doing stuff, like basically new stuff opens up and that sort of thing, a lot of times I kind of lose my motivation a bit. And I was feeling like that a bit initially. And I basically just kind of had to push myself to just jump back in, because it's like I knew that if I didn't jump back into the game after, like I had considered maybe playing some other games, or jumping into another game, because I was kind of in the mood to just change to something completely different. But at the same time, I also knew that, especially with me playing on expert difficulty, if I jumped out, I mean, if I didn't go back into it, I was probably gonna like lose muscle memory and that sort of thing, and kind of like lose my rhythm. So I decided to just go back in, and have been playing more of that since then. So at this point in the game, I'm just doing basically all the side stuff that I haven't done, going to areas that I couldn't access before because I was too low level, or maybe that I couldn't, not that I couldn't access, but that I couldn't really progress because I was too low level. And I've gotten to the point where I was able to break the damage limit, so I'm not limited to 9999 damage, but depending on the attack, I can do, I think the max I've done is around 5 million damage. Um, which, and that's after the nerf where some people were getting like 1.6 billion damage. And keep in mind, I'm also, I think right now Mael is level 70 or 71, somewhere around there. So, um, yeah. But anyway, going back to like talking about stuff in general, like with the boss fights and that sort of thing. So, most of the fights that are being shown here are just um, various chromatic enemies. There's one in particular which should show up in the footage here a bit later that, once again, is completely optional. The chromatic ramasseur. And this thing, you literally, I mean, after the very beginning of the fight, you do not get a turn unless you parry his attacks. Because you have to parry him enough to actually get the parry counter attacks. And then you'll be able to get in an attack. And if you don't get those, if you don't parry his attacks, he just attacks and gets turn after turn after turn after turn, and you don't get turns. So this guy was insane. And I don't even remember what area he was in exactly. I mean, I just know it was in Act 2. And yeah, it took quite a few tries to get through that. I almost want to say maybe he was in the monolith, which is like the area where you ultimately fight the paintress, but I don't think so. I think it's earlier than that, a different area. But anyway, so yeah, this guy was insane. And there was another guy that I had seen earlier in the game, and I believe he was in like the final area of Act 1. Yeah, final area, but it's an area, there's a particular chromatic enemy that you couldn't access because there's a certain ability you get later on that enables you to break these spikes that are in the ground that what they call painted spikes. So basically just like black spikes with like blue cracks through them. And once you get the ability that you need to break those spikes, then you can access this boss. But until then, you can't actually access it. So the when I got to this boss, this chromatic boss, I was expecting, okay, it's going to be tough, but I'm not too worried about it. You know, most of them have been tough initially, and then once I figure them out, it'll be fine. I can't even tell you how many hours I spent on this boss because, of course, I was determined to do it then and there. I wasn't going to wait until I was stronger. I don't know what level I actually was when I fought it. But it's like I'm determined to beat this guy. And so initially, like the first half of the fight, he does I think he alternates between 2 and 3 hit combos. Which after a while, I got to a point where it's like, okay, I know his combos well enough to where I can actually parry those 2-3 hit combos. I can deal enough damage to get through, and at this point, I still am only dealing maximum of 9999 damage. And so I'm, getting through this. Then I get to the second phase, and that's where I'm struggling because every one of his attacks, it is a 7-hit combo. So it's 2 hits, little break, 2 hits, little break, 2 hits, and then one big and little break and one big hit. And so it's you have to figure out the parry timing for that in order to actually be able to successfully take this guy down. And I started trying to fight him, I think early in the evening on Friday. And it wasn't until I think about 1:30 in the morning that I finally beat him. I mean, there was like little breaks here and there, but it was still just well, yeah, there was a break in there because like I hung out with my wife for a bit after our friend left. My wife and I hung out for a couple hours, and then I went back to it. But this the guy's, it's chromatic Galt, and so Um, after many, many attempts, it got to a point where I could parry the majority of those 7 hits most of the time, and sometimes I could actually parry all 7. And when I did that, it's like, yes! And, get off a good counterattack, do lots of damage, and, it's just like, it was a very lengthy, difficult fight. It took me a long time to get all the way through it. And oh boy. It was probably one of the hardest fights I've done. And that being said, of course, if I had waited until later in the game, like when I could break the damage limit, when I was higher level, he probably would have been a joke. Because I probably could have just one-shot him potentially. I mean, like, especially if I was doing the kind of damage I'm doing right now, I could have easily one-shot him. But I was determined to beat him at that point in the game, and so I did. And I mean, the fight's playing right now, but yeah, that was a very tricky fight, and there's a couple other fights in here. One of which is a creature that I think you can try fighting as early as Act 2. And he's like one of the quote unquote super bosses, not like hardest enemies in the game by any stretch, but still one of the very difficult bosses. And if you beat him though, you get a Picto called Cheater, which makes it so that you can have 2 turns in a row. So then, so I'm well. So yeah, the Picto you equip, and then after it's learned, of course, you can have it on everybody. So yeah, but it was some interesting fights in there. I have attempted a few areas that I'm definitely low level for. Right now, I'm in an area that it's telling me I'm too low level. I've been able to manage. Like I've still been challenged enough to where I haven't felt like, oh, I'm just breezing through it. Because I'm not one-shotting most bosses. But it's definitely like I'm still dealing a lot of damage. Like I'll, at least when I'm using a stacked up version of one of Mael's attacks, the one that they nerfed, the Stendhal attack, I can often deal anywhere from 1.6 to 3.2 million damage in a single hit. But the enemies also have a lot more health, and sometimes that's only taken out a quarter of their health, if not, I mean, maybe at most like half. I have attempted to fight the leader of the what you call them. I don't know why I can't think of what they're called. Like with all the time I've spent in this game, um, the guys that you're in the village of right now. Gosh.
Oh, the Gestrels.
Gestrels, thank you. Yes, the leader of the Gestrels. I've tried fighting her, and even at this high level, she's still tough. I did get her. I think I got her down about 3/4 of the way, and that was even with one of my hits doing like 3.5 million damage. So,
Oh,
all the more reason you should wait until you're strong to fight her, because even with dealing that much damage in one hit, I mean, unless you're like a dodge and parry master, you are going to severely regret it trying to deal with her at a low level. So I'm glad I gave up on that one very early before, and now I'm just waiting until I'm a bit stronger before I try facing her again. She's bullied me enough. I'm going to make sure I really bully her later on. um, but yeah. As an overall thing, like having completed the story without spoiling anything at all, just this game is still amazing, and I'm enjoying continuing to work on all the side stuff. It's going to take a while for me to finish everything. I think I still have about 13 achievements left in the game. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. And yeah, there's one, the super boss. I have attempted to face him a couple times, like the super boss, like the hardest boss in the game. I actually did okay, but I know that I was only like maybe halfway through his first phase, and he's 2 phases. So, but he very much made me think of a Dark Souls boss, and in all the best ways. So, but yeah, and music is still amazing in this game. One thing I want to say, last week when I was saying that the theme that was the Go Blue theme was the theme that you when you fight the boss of the Flying Waters, I was thinking that was the song I was thinking of, and it's actually not. Even though the song that plays during him is great, the song I was thinking of is the normal battle theme that plays when you're in the underwater area, because it's called Go Blue. That's the name of the song. And so I thought, oh, that's the boss theme, and that's what I was thinking it was. But it's like, no, this is just the normal battle theme when you're in the Flying Waters, and it's fantastic. Speaking of which, the soundtrack, for some reason, it does not have the manor theme in it. The song that plays when you're inside the manor.
Really?
Dun 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 dun. Anyway, you'll like pick it up more the more time you spend there, because you'll go back there off and on throughout the game. But
Okay.
um, because you'll find random doors that will take you into the manor from different locations that let you open
Oh,
a bunch of those locked doors. In fact, I think eventually you'll be
okay.
able to open all of them. I just haven't done that yet. I've probably opened like 5 or 6 doors, give or take. But
Hmm.
yeah, um, I think that is everything. I'm pretty much just planning on sticking with this game until I'm done with it. I played a tiny bit on Steam Deck, but it's um, more than anything, I've just been playing on my laptop and my desktop. Oh, one thing I do want to mention quickly, that the chromatic Galt fight, the guy that is the 7-hit combo. Um, the one thing, like, I actually very nearly didn't beat him, because I fought him, got him a good chunk of the way down with my main team, and then when they died, it switched to my secondary team, and I got him down to like this much health, like a teeny tiny bit of health, and then I messed up on parrying one of his attacks. But thankfully, I had an ability called Death Bomb that when you die, it does damage to the enemy, and it happened to kill him. I was like, it was way too close. I was down to my last person. It's like I think I parried 5 of the hits, and then I got hit on the 6th one, and and Luna exploded and took him out with her death, and it was like, thank you, Jesus. Especially with all the time I spent on that. But anyway, okay,
Oh
that's everything
man.
I got.
Oh man. Okay. So just because you mentioned this just now, I'm not just now, but so with the manor, does that sort of act as a shortcut to all the areas then? Because initially I
No.
was wondering what the. Okay, so you can only just like go into the manor from one door, and you can only leave through that original door.
Yeah, basically, so like you'll find the manor doors throughout different areas of the world, and they warp you into the manor, into a different room that you haven't been to yet. And then once you go through that room, you'll open the door, and it'll open a door back into the main manor. And then when you go exit out the front door, it'll just take you through the door that you came in.
Okay. Okay.
So you'll still be in the same area rather than it taking you all the way back to Flying Waters and making it a pain in the butt to get back to where you were.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was just wondering. It's like, huh? That'll be. I was thinking that would be kind of interesting if you could just go through the different doors. That way, you don't have to like travel, like go across the map and whatnot. But okay. Um. So so since I mean, without I guess without spoiling anything. So now that you finished the game though, and you said you've enjoyed it, would you still say it's a game you would consider to be game of the year for you?
Yes, without question.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Um.
there are so many things about this game that I want to say, but I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, I mean, just as a game, the story, the music, just everything about this game, it's phenomenal. And one of the things that we didn't really talk about, but I definitely want to mention, is that this game gave me faith in Unreal Engine 5 because it is very well optimized. I mean, the Steam Deck, it doesn't run great, but it still runs. It still runs reasonably well. And you put it on low settings on the Steam Deck, it actually still looks pretty decent. I found it actually looked better when I had it on all low settings than if I tried raising some of the settings up. At least with some of the upscaling stuff. I think it might also be, I think TSR looks a bit better on the Steam Deck than the XeSS does, if I remember correctly. But the only thing, one thing I did forget to mention is that the one complaint I have about this game is that it doesn't remember settings by device. And so whatever settings you set from device to device, the settings change on every device. So there was a couple times where I'd been playing it on the Steam Deck, and so I had put everything on low and put it on my desktop or my laptop, and of course, obviously it's running very well. It still looks good, but like I don't even realize that everything's on low. And I'm like, there's a couple things that look a little bit off, and the way things are loading in, the pop in with the plants and whatnot, that's weird. And then I looked at it and was like, oh, everything's on low, that's why. But yeah, anyway.
Nice. So I guess then, since you felt kind of, I don't want to say burned out, but I'll say, would you consider doing New Game Plus or
No.
no?
From what I've heard, New Game Plus, basically all it really gives you is a cup. I mean, like enemies have a bit higher health and stuff, and like if you didn't do all the side stuff, it will provide an extra challenge. But I've heard from people that they had completed everything in the base game, and then they their characters were maxed out and everything, and when they went into New Game Plus, everything was just easy.
Hmm.
So I don't know if they were playing on expert, but even still, like from what I heard, the only boss they had any trouble with was the super boss, and even he didn't give him a whole lot of trouble.
I'll definitely keep that in mind then for if I want to decide to do it or not, or
Plus,
rather,
also the amount of hours I put into this game, I mean, it definitely wouldn't take me as long to get through New Game Plus because of how much stronger I would be, but I've already put a ton of hours into this game, and I'm not even done with it yet, so yeah, I'm not planning on it.
what was your run time when you finished the game? When you finished like the main story?
I'm not sure because it's a little hard to tell with certainty since the way Steam tracks hours sometimes doesn't seem very accurate. Sometimes it'll like fluctuate, which is weird. And then of course like the actual in-game hours vary a bit from what I actually did on my actual game time. I mean, the actual amount of time I played, because probably since it had to reload saves and that sort of thing, all the time that I lost from all of my deaths were we're not counted. So like right now, if I look at it, the total number of hours I have, it says I have 76 hours. I'm sure that if I hadn't spent so much time fighting and refighting and refighting and refighting, trying to beat some of those chromatic bosses that I was struggling with, I probably could have knocked off probably 10 hours from that. But I was being stubborn, and so it is what it is.
Okay. Good stuff then. Nothing further from me at this time, just because I have a lot of ground to cover. Clearly.
Yeah, man. I was so sad that you hadn't even finished Act 1 yet. It's like, come on, man. You
Okay,
you
okay.
were
Just out of mild curiosity, so considering the fact that I'm just like at the Crimson Forest area, about how many more areas until the end of Act One?
I don't remember. I mean, I want to say that like you have I believe it's the Crimson Forest and then you have I believe Esquia's domain right after that. And then after that, I believe is the final area of Act 1. And that's just excluding any side stuff you do along the way.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, you got to catch up because I mean, you were the one who was like, you know, glowing about how great this game is, and then I ultimately ended up picking it up because of your recommendation, and obviously also because it was still discounted. And then I completely obliterate you on how far I get in this game. You barely even touch the game, comparatively speaking. And it's just like, come on, man.
Yeah, I'm a catch up. Like I don't have any other distractions per se, and I know that this weekend, since or especially with Saturday, I don't have anything that's going to be stopping me every hour. So I know I'll definitely have time to like get into the game and get into like the swing of things. So I should hopefully at least have Act One finished by next week.
Yeah, you better.
Definitely aim for
You better.
that. Gonna hear
I
have a knock on
that's
my
your
door next
homework.
week.
Get complete at least Act 1. I mean, I don't care if you get past that right away. I mean, it'll just take you whatever time it takes you. But man, just like, I can't talk about it with you because there's too much stuff that has not happened in your game yet because you're still so early. Uh, but yeah, I'm sure that if I was playing this at a lower difficulty, wasn't spending much time fighting optional bosses, I probably would have been done with it a lot earlier, at least in terms of the story. In fact, I might even be done with like everything with the game if I wasn't dealing with that. But because I decided to play on expert and stick with expert, there's that. Oh, that there is one thing I forgot to talk about with this. So the mini games. So there's a handful of Gestrel mini games you do. There is one where you have to like run across some planks and stuff in order to get to like just the end of an area. Which that one isn't really that bad. It's just because of the fact that your character doesn't automatically balance on the logs in this area. If you slip off the side, then you have to start over. And because it's on the ocean, so that one wasn't terrible. Then there's one where you have to climb up like really really high, and it's just basically like you're jumping. It's platforming on various objects, ranging from like big platforms to like little chairs and stuff that are floating in the air and that sort of thing to get all the way to the top. And I made it all the way to the top, but it was very much well, like I almost had it my first try, and then I fell off right near the end and had to start basically over from the beginning. And then I fell off a handful of times after that before I finally made it to the top. And then let's see here, there's another one where it's basically like a timed thing where you have to get to the end in a certain amount of time in order to get the gold. That one took a handful of tries, but it wasn't too bad. Um, I think there's just two more mini games after that. So one of these mini games, actually, I'll talk about the second worst one first. So the second worst one, um, you have to climb this tower, and as you're climbing the tower, so you're using like the climb handholds, and it's just you're like zoomed out. As you're climbing, there's always two of the three um, columns that have fiery balls dropping from them. And so basically you have to climb up and move over as needed in order to avoid them. The thing is, there's just enough of an input delay, when you're climbing, just like when you climb normally in the game, to where you have to get your timing right. If you get hit, you get knocked all the way to the bottom, period. And so that one took me quite a few tries. It definitely was nowhere near the worst one. So the worst one, I didn't put most of my recorded footage on here because I basically just decided to have the one clip, and I'll be playing that momentarily. But it's the volleyball game in this. So the way that this works is you are on a raft, and there is one of the big sakapates, those big giant robot gestrels that you fight, and so it shoots baby gestrels at you like volleyballs, and you have to use your hand parry ability thing, that you use for doing a first strike on enemies in order to deflect them. So sometimes, it'll fire them off to the right, in front of it, or to the left. It fires like regular ones, and the regular ones do a certain amount of damage to your raft. The flaming ones, I think those ones do either 2 or 3 times the amount of damage to your raft. Now, there's 3 levels to the difficulty. When you get to the 3rd level, I think the enemy has, I want to say 20 points of life that you have to get through. So you have to reflect 20 of them in order to take down the enemy's raft. But you can basically only get hit 3 or 4 times. Oh. And of course, there's just enough of a cooldown after you fire one off to where you can't just spam it or anything. If you accidentally do it too early, then there's just enough of a cooldown to where you could very easily end up getting hit. It's so easy to die. Such a pain. I was getting super irritated at this, and it's like, the only reason I'm doing this, I don't even care about the swimsuit reward. I literally do not care about that. The only reason I'm doing this is because of the fact that it is tied to an achievement. Well, actually, it's tied to a couple of achievements. Maybe it's just one. I don't remember if there's any achievement related to outfits, but there is an achievement related to completing all the different Gestrel mini-games. So I keep trying this for a while, and then I ultimately just decide, okay, I'm done trying this for now. I looked it up just to see what kind of mods there were available. And there was a mod that made it so that basically you only had to reflect, I think, a total of 5 hits in order to take out the enemy raft. So there's yeah, I did a total of 3 hits, and so I have that recorded here with that mod. It's like, yes, it was cheating, but you know what? For this one thing, I don't care. I didn't use it for anything else in the game. I haven't used it to improve parry timing. I didn't use it for anything that would make the game easier except for this. And it's just because of the fact that it was such a pain in the butt. I hated it so much, and it was just like one of the most BS things in this entire game. But the worst part about all of this, with all these mini games, the good ones and the bad ones, which really most of them are fine. It's really just those last 2 that were a pain. The music is so good for this. It's like do 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 do. And actually, it's possible I'm mixing it up with someone else's music theme. But either way, the theme that the music that plays during the Gestrel Beach games is pretty fantastic and super catchy. So, yeah. Okay, that's really everything I have.
Nothing further from me.
All right, well, let's get into the news. And we do have some things that we did not cover last week because we just had a little bit too much. And this week in general, the topics are kind of dry, so we're going to talk about some stuff that we hadn't previously covered. So, first of all, I wanted to talk about the leaks for the Xbox branded Asus ROG Ally 2. And in the final version of the podcast, I'll be sure to include the images on screen here. But basically, it is an Asus ROG Ally. There's a black variety and a white variety, which I believe they are different models, not just in terms of color. That have like an Xbox logo, and the buttons look more like actual Xbox buttons in terms of how the letters are displayed and all that. I mean, even though obviously the layout is the same regardless, but the main thing that separates this one from the other Asus ROG Ally is that it actually has like big grips on the back of it, very similar to what you get from like an Xbox controller, or I mean, really, it's kind of rounded more like what you get with a GameCube controller, is what it reminds me of. But either way, this is just pictures that were taken presumably on a factory floor. The black one was like completely covered in fingerprints and looked kind of disgusting. But obviously, this hasn't been officially revealed. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, when you first mentioned it, I didn't notice it, but when you mention it now, I'm like, yeah, it does kind of remind me of the GameCube Wavebird controller, which I've never actually seen in person before, an actual Wavebirds, but
How
it
young
definitely
are
looks
you?
like that. Oh my gosh. Okay, here's the thing. I've always wanted a Wavebird, but I never got one. Like I got like Mad Catz wireless GameCube controllers, but I never
Yeah,
got an officially branded
I had some of
Wavebird.
those.
But yeah, so like it definitely does remind me of that. Um, so I'm a even though there are some spec differences here and there that were mentioned, what I really want to ultimately know though is about the software, because if this is essentially just what I want to know is this really just an Xbox branded Ally, or is this an actual Xbox handheld console? Because if it is just an Xbox Ally, then it's like, okay, what's essentially the point then? Because it's most likely just going to just run Windows 11, and it's going to, of course, have desktop mode. And sure, you will be able to play your Xbox. Well, you'll be limited it by that in that sense, because you'll only be able to play Xbox for PC games rather than just playing your regular Xbox console games, which would be kind of limiting in that aspect. And of course, because it has Windows 11, you would have access to Steam, which would then be funny because you'd be playing, Xbox. Sorry, PlayStation games on an Xbox device. But could you even really call it an Xbox device if it's just an actual, just another handheld gaming PC? If it's just running, Windows 11 and is essentially the same as any other Ally. So that's really what I want to know, if it's really just a handheld PC, or is it actually running a custom Xbox console OS? Because I think that's really going to make the huge difference there. Because if it is, running an Xbox OS and it is pretty much the same as, the Series X and Series S, then that's a completely different story. And then you would really be getting just an Xbox gaming handheld. So it's really something that I would really have to see to know, would this really be something worth getting? I mean, I wouldn't get one either way because I'm not interested in Xbox console, and I wouldn't really get an Ally anyway. But I think for people who really want an Xbox handheld, this would be the deciding factor, because it would be, okay, am I actually getting a dedicated Xbox handheld, or is it just going to be another gaming PC, a handheld gaming PC? And I mean, granted, if it's going to be, just an Xbox, if it's going to be the Xbox gaming PC, then I have a feeling it's going to be a bit more expensive because it's got that branding than, a regular Ally could be. I mean, it might just be something like maybe 100, $150 more, but it's just like, would you really want to pay an extra 150 for just the branding, if it's going to be essentially, I mean, for what essentially is the same thing, even if their specs are different here and there, or or is it just going to be a completely separate device from everything else? That's really just what I want to know. But I mean, of course, this is all just speculation and rumors and leaks and stuff. But I do have a feeling that what we've seen is legitimate so far.
Yeah, I have zero reason to question its legitimacy. It it looks like a real thing, especially considering the fact that we've had similar leaks in the past with stuff related to the Switch, especially. Um, and so I think that yeah, this is probably real. In fact, no, I believe it's real, without question. Um, the in terms of like how it's going to operate, I guess apparently recently with the Windows Store, they've added like a battery icon, to where you can see like percentage of battery and that sort of thing on there. So there's speculation that perhaps basically could just have like an operating. It would basically have the Windows Store open by default, kind of like a big picture mode, like what they have with the Steam Deck, except just in Windows. Um, and that has potential. I haven't been on the Windows Store recently because I pretty much avoid using it. But I mean, I think it's one of those things where it definitely has potential if they can figure out how to optimize it and make it run smoothly. I think really what Windows needs to do if they want to compete, and I know that they're not necessarily trying to compete with the Steam Deck, but if they want to have something that will gain more popularity, they really should try to streamline it to make it feel very much like the Steam Deck just with Windows, to where it is by default it opens up a Windows Store, whatever, like a streamlined operating system similar to what they maybe have on Xbox. I mean, that would be the ideal, is just having like essentially the Xbox OS on that handheld. And then still having a desktop mode that you can go to where you can do any of the extra stuff you want to do. But as for whether they're going to do that, obviously it's just yet to be seen. Regardless of any of that, though, the pricing is going to be the number one factor, I think, for a lot of people. Because if they don't price this competitively, which, based on what they've been doing with prices lately, I kind of doubt they're going to, then I don't know how they expect to sell much of any. And I'm still very much of the opinion that hardware sales don't matter nearly as much as they used to, and that Xbox is past the point of caring about hardware sales. They're really just trying to sell Game Pass. And, if they can give you a handheld device that maybe you spend a bit more, but like, let's say it includes 6 months of Game Pass or something. I mean, I don't think they would do that, but even without that, you give people a lot more options, get people more invested in the ecosystem. And a lot of people, they probably would look at the handheld and see, well, I could spend a bit more and then just have easy access to my Xbox library, have, access to all these cheaper games, but I could also just very easily do Game Pass and just do, Windows Game Pass or PC Game Pass. People might choose to do that. I still wouldn't. If the Steam Deck wasn't a thing, if I didn't already have a Steam Deck and a laptop that can play PC games, I would probably be interested. Not because of the Xbox branding, because I've literally never purchased an Xbox, but because I like Asus in general. But as it stands right now, because of the fact that I have a Steam Deck and I have a laptop, my portable options are basically covered when it comes to PC gaming. So I don't really see any need for something like that. But hopefully it'll be a worthwhile option for Xbox fans or people who want to get more into PC gaming and don't necessarily want to do a Steam Deck or whatever. So that's about all I have to say.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the part that, you would most likely have access to Game Pass, so, playing your Game Pass titles on a handheld device. Granted, I'm not certain how that would work if you're offline or not connected to the internet, but, I feel like that would still be something that would be interesting to do.
Well, I mean, Game
And
Pass
like you
stuff,
said,
you can download Game Pass games.
oh, okay.
It hasn't been streaming only for a really long time.
Okay, then yeah, I mean, that definitely would be a way to have a cheaper alternative to, like, if say you buy the console and or handheld, and like, I don't feel like spending a bunch on games right now, then yeah, that would definitely work. But I do agree that pricing will definitely be a huge factor on how well this sells. And I mean, I feel like it shouldn't be any more than $700. I mean, I think 600 would be nice, but considering how much, like the previous allies have cost, it wouldn't be out of the question that it would be like maybe 650. I wouldn't put it past it.
Yeah. For sure. All right. So, as we previously had discussed the possibility of, Gears of War is, in fact, getting a remaster. Gears of War Reloaded, and it is just the first game. It is coming to Xbox, PlayStation 5, and PC. All right, it is coming out on August 26th for $40. That's Xbox Series X and S, Xbox PC, Xbox Cloud Gaming, PS5, and Steam, and arrives day one with Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass. Has Xbox Play Anywhere, so you can transfer your save. It's basically cross-save all across the board. Has cross-play between the various platforms. Okay, yes. Xbox fans who own the digital version of Gears of War Ultimate Edition receive a free upgrade to Gears of War Reloaded. And if you, physical version, you're out of luck. So, also, I guess another thing to note about this is that it is going to have 4K resolution, 120 FPS support. It does not say whether that is across the board. Is that native 4K? Actually, yeah, it looks like it is native 4K. It is 4K. It doesn't say if it's actually native 4K or not. Let me look at this more closely.
That says 4K assets and textures.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the main question I have is like, is it native 4K to where it's 4K at all times? Is it dynamic 4K? Is it upscaled 4K? That's the part that's not entirely clear. Okay, I see what we have here. All right, so this image that they show here, and I'll probably include this in the video. The original version of the game was 1280 by 720 at 30 FPS. The Ultimate Edition was 1920 by 1080 at 30 FPS, and the Reloaded Edition is 3840 by 2160 or 4K at 60 FPS. Now, I do think this is a game that probably could actually do that because of the fact that it is an old game. I mean, the game is almost 20 years old, the base game, and they basically just upgraded some visuals with that. I'm just not entirely sure whether that is a native 4K at all times or if it's dynamic 4K. But I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that I missed about this. Okay, so you don't have to have a Microsoft account for it, but if you want cross-platform functionality, and which includes cross progression for both single and multiplayer, you have to sign in with a Microsoft account. Do okay, so it's 60 FPS in the campaign, 120 FPS in multiplayer, which is surprising to me that it would be that way, but maybe there's just less visual effects in multiplayer than there is in the campaign. HDR, surround sound, VRR, 4K assets and remastered textures. Super resolution with improved anti-aliasing. That sounds to me like that's upscaled. But honestly, I don't know what it actually is. Regardless of any of that, what are your thoughts?
So definitely, as you said, we talked about this before, and it's good to finally get something concrete, something official coming out of this. And while it would have been nice to have a whole, collection of 1, 2, and 3. Having the first one's fine. I mean, it's kind of giving me Metroid Prime remastered vibes. Just getting that only one title, but also similar to Metroid Prime remastered, it's releasing for $40, which can't really complain about that. So that's not a bad price at all, especially for what you're getting. I'm also surprised too, similar to you, about how the frame rate is 120 in multiplayer, but 60 in the single campaign, and it kind of sounds like it should be the other way around. But I mean, the fact that, well, I'm hoping that maybe at least on PC, the single player is uncapped. That would be nice.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this is just for like consoles
I think
specifically.
so. I'm pretty sure that's just for consoles.
Because I feel like we should definitely be able to get more than just 60 in a campaign mode. But I mean, definitely seems great here, and I appreciate the fact that an Xbox account isn't required. Sony, take notes. I mean, I understand that it's needed for cross-play and cross-platform, cross progression. That I understand why it would be necessary. Why they would require that for that aspect. But for the single player mode or just playing you know, multiplayer on one platform, I love the fact that they don't require you to have a Microsoft account. Again, take notes, Sony. Don't be forcing this in your games. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely great, and in August, so that's a couple months down the road. And of course, I think it's also just great the fact that it is multi-platform, so more people can play it. I'm wondering maybe if down the road we could see this on the Switch too. I'm not 100% certain. I feel like maybe this is a game where I definitely don't think it would be getting like the 4K, and maybe not getting the 120 FPS, but maybe it could get 60 FPS and maybe like upscaled 1440p, 1080p, something like that. Of course, I don't know how it would handle with multi-plat as far as cross-platform, because then you have 120 FPS people playing with like sub
120 versus
120,
30.
and then it'll just be a bloodbath at that point. So maybe it might not get cross-platform, but you could probably get the game and have multiplayer running, with Switch people only. So I would be interested in seeing how that goes, but at least for right now, what's provided for all the other platforms, I think it's definitely great. I probably won't get it day one, but is something that I would get sooner or later. Just because I was interested in trying the game or trying the games out, because I played, I think it was 3 that I played on the Xbox 360 once or twice. No, not 360. I'm Xbox One. I played some of that one there, and it was pretty good from what I played. But yeah, playing starting the series from the beginning would be nice, and I'm hoping that this is just a way to incentivize Microsoft to say, all right, now we're going to remaster 2 and 3,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll release those later on. If it's something that they're not already in development with working on. So, I mean, all in all, this is definitely good. Uh, Looking forward to this. Of course, like I said, not at launch, but later on eventually. And again, great price point, nothing too crazy, and it's a nice, decent price. That's all I've got.
Yeah, I feel pretty similarly. I'm very interested in this because I was always interested in checking out Gears of War back when it was originally on PC, but between Games for Windows Live being required at the time and I just never got around to grabbing it. And then as time went on, I was just like, maybe I'm not that interested after all. Maybe I'll just wait. And of course, now my waiting is going to be rewarded from that standpoint. I'm not really relishing the idea of potentially having to spend $40 for each of the games. I mean, $40 isn't a bad price, but for a game that's just about 20 years old, just with some visual upgrades, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like I said, it's not a terrible price, but it's something where I'm not as I just don't really necessarily want to do all three like that.
Mm.
But I'd say there's a good chance I'll end up grabbing this one close to launch. It's even possible at some point, I mean, this is just kind of a general thing, that I will actually give Game Pass a shot on PC, just to try out a couple games. But the main issue is that it has to be something where I have to be either sure that I'm going to use it enough to justify trying it out, or I'm going to need to just make sure that I cancel after my trial's up. Like set myself a calendar reminder or whatever. Cancel it today because I don't want to pay for it. But realistically, I probably wouldn't even do that because I just have so many games to play. Like when I was thinking about playing something before I ultimately decided to stick with Expedition 33 and continue working on all the optional stuff. I was like, I wouldn't mind turning on my 3DS. I haven't turned that on in a while, or maybe turning on my Vita and playing God of War, or like various other things. The one thing that I've been thinking about a lot, and this is going off topic a bit, but is what I want to play when I get my Switch 2, because a lot of it is of course going to depend on whether or not they do 60 FPS patches for some of the games, because I know that they are doing doing free patches for a handful of games, but as far as I know, Paper Mario 1000 Year Door is not listed on that yet, which is unfortunate because that's one of the ones that I would love to have 60. Xenoblade obviously is a big one because I know that one will get 60. I just don't know when and whether or not they'll charge for it. But it does seem like in general they're only charging extra if they're doing more than just upgrading the resolution and the frame rate. Like if they're adding additional content, that they're charging the $10 fee, and if they're not adding that, then they're not charging extra. That's at least the way it looks so far, based on the ones that they have listed right now as having free upgrades. So we'll see what actually happens on that front, but regardless, I am interested in Gears of War Reloaded on PC, obviously. And I will keep my eyes peeled, and when the time comes, we'll see if I'm ready to play it right away or if I want to just wait. More likely than not, it'll be waiting, though. So, that's all I have. All right. You want to talk about this NBC leak about Mario?
Sure. So recently, let me see. I don't remember the day. Okay, yeah. So it was actually I think it was earlier today, like early this morning, or yeah, it was early morning Wednesday, like around two a.m. At least based on here, 2 a.m. Central Eastern time. NBC had a list of upcoming movies and stuff in 2025 and beyond. And one of the projects in that post said Super Mario World. And it that was pretty much everything that it mentioned. It didn't have anything specifically there, but that's what it posted there, along with like some other movies they had. And then shortly after it, they pulled the title from the list and it's gone now. So it's nothing else has been said beyond that, but that's essentially just teasing what the title of the next Mario movie is. And while we can speculate what's going to happen, that's really all we can do. So, what are your thoughts on this leak?
Well, it's interesting to say the least. I think that this was just straight up like this is a real leak in that it was either an accident or it was intentional, but um just as far as having a Super Mario World being the title of the next movie, it would make sense, especially with the Yoshi teaser at the end after the credits on the Mario Brothers movie. Um, it's like we know for a fact Yoshi's going to be in the next one, so it would make sense for it to be Super Mario World since that's where Yoshi first gets introduced in the Mario games. So, um, of course, I'm very interested in this one. This is one that I will probably take the kids to see, or actually, I may even because of the fact that the post says that it's going to be uh, first streaming exclusively on Peacock after the theatrical and I don't know what I guess must be paid video on demand windows. So it might even be something that you can actually like pay $30 to see to stream it at home or something like that. And then after that it's, included with Peacock, which I would actually probably be okay with. I mean, if I had the option to stream it at home for free or for $30 or something, that's way cheaper than going to a movie theater. I can, make my own, movie theater style popcorn and not have to deal with the cost. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's fun going to the movie theater, but considering the fact that last time it was almost $100 for the five of us, I'm like, no thanks.
Oh,
I'll make my own popcorn, save some money, and just watch it at home, and then we can pause it when we need to, and all of that. So yeah, but either way, I mean, like, I'm excited about this. I really enjoyed the Mario Brothers movie. I thought it was very good, and some of Peach's girl bossiness aside, as long as they don't turn that part up to 11 and just keep it similar, and still, because of the fact that Mario's actually had gone through his hero's journey already, that he'll actually be able to be more the Mario that he's supposed to be. Um, like, I don't mind if Peach is strong because that's fine as long as they balance it out by still having, like Mario and Luigi able to do, things to contribute in and not just be basically like, this is really Super Peach world, and Mario and Peach is too strong. She don't need no man, stuff like that that just completely ruins it and makes it not enjoyable anymore. Yeah, that is everything I have on that. So, what about you?
yeah. Definitely think that this is going to be centered around the Super Mario World game, and as you said, Yoshi was teased, and even before the end credit stuff, like there was the one scene when they're traveling through Mushroom Kingdom and there's the whole herd of Yoshis that are
Yeah,
passing
that's
by
true.
and stuff and like that, and just like, yeah, I have a feeling that we'll see them around sometime soon. Which, I mean, I don't think they really mentioned anything about that, but it kind of makes you wonder. Okay, so world takes place on Yoshi's Island, and yet we've got the Yoshis already in the Mushroom Kingdom. So I'm like, I wonder if there's like, they're not really just like gonna explain that, or if it's just like, yeah, Yoshis were like always here or something like that, and whatnot. So it'll be interesting. And I wonder like how much they're going to take from World and implement it into this movie. Like, are you going to have? No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of like Mario 3, because I was saying, are you gonna have like Bowser's kids? And I was like, no, that's Mario 3 there. But no wait, no, they were in World. Yes. What am I thinking?
I mean, like, I really haven't even played enough of those games to be able to say one way or the other.
Because I was thinking, I was like, I know that they're I know that they're definitely in 3, but I was like, I feel like for some reason they're like end bosses for each world. But I would be curious to know if they're going to do that, or if they're just going to like have something completely different with the story. And I know there have been mentions about eventually having a whole sort of Nintendo cinematic universe in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. So I'm almost wondering, eventually, are they going to like tease something like there are other worlds out there, and like maybe it's like teasing a Kirby movie, or I mean, this one's a live action film, so that's gonna be completely separate. But like teasing a Zelda world, or something outside of that. And I mean, granted, or they might do something where they sort of branch out further Nintendo-ish, but without reaching the other IP, sort of like how with the Mario Kart world, how they've been branching out with other Nintendo IPs that weren't necessarily Mario related, so something closer related, sort of like with Donkey Kong. So maybe like with Donkey Kong Country. I mean, granted, they've technically already done that within the first movie with
Mm-hmm.
Cranky Kong, but if they might be branching out sort of like in that aspect or not. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what they do there. But yeah, it'll definitely make the movie will definitely be interesting when that comes out. And considering how much my niece and nephew loved the first one and watched that one repeatedly, they're definitely going to want to see this one when it comes out. And I know you'll be ready to see your favorite character Donkey Kong on the screen.
No comment. But yeah, I look forward to it, and we'll see when this actually gets officially announced. I guess realistically, it probably would be this year that it comes out, since the last one was 2023. Usually, a 2-year cycle is pretty common,
Hmm.
especially because also like from what I've seen, I mean, some of the things that are listed here. I mean, like I know that there's that live action How to Train Your Dragon, that is either I guess it's probably just coming out that I've seen previews for, which I want to like it, but there are certain things about it that just irritate me. I do love the fact that they have Gerard Butler though still playing his role as the dad. For some reason I can't remember his name, but playing his, because he voices the dad in the animated movies, and now he's going in the live action. He's playing the dad, which is perfect because Gerard Butler's fantastic. Um, but also they have like the Downton Abbey thing, which my wife is looking forward to because she's a big fan of that. I thought it was a pretty good series, but yeah, if they have all those things listed that are real, unless this is someone just messing with us, then it seems very likely that that's actually legit. Anyway, all right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here. The Horizon series, so Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, apparently the third game in the series, which is going to include multiplayer. So they must have just rolled that into the game instead of having an online version, is supposed to be coming out in 2027. And let's see here, was there any actual like details on that? I don't think there was, other than saying that it was going to have multiplayer. Let me look at that again.
Ooh. Oh.
Oh, the
Yeah.
the
I
page
just
got
wanted
taken
to
down.
stop that.
So I'm going to say it's real.
Whoa,
It's definitely
okay.
real because it got taken down. I wonder if it's still. I wonder if it's up on like Video Games Chronicle or anything.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
Horizon. Let's check. See here. What we got here. Nope. There's nothing listed there. So yeah. Obviously that the only way that that would be taken down is if it was real, because those things don't get. I mean, like there's rumors all the time. But
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah. What are your thoughts?
Uh, yeah. I mean, based upon what I recall, it definitely seems to make sense that another Horizon game. I mean, granted, I haven't played two, and granted, I also barely even started the first game. But
Yeah.
excuse me, I would assume that there was obviously enough left open at the end of two where they could say, yeah, let's make a third game. Um, and of course, you can speak better on that than I can, because you've played Forbidden West. But I'm not surprised about that. I'm kind of surprised that there is a multiplayer game, but that is. I'm trying to remember, what was that supposed to be separate, or was that going to be like included with the third game? That's what I'm trying to remember.
Well,
That's the
this
one
one
detail I'm trying to
says.
remember.
I mean, from what I can see from the headline here. Oh, you're right. That is two separate games. It's not together. I misunderstood. So yeah.
Yeah. So if that's the
Yeah,
thing, I'm
online
like,
multiplayer title is supposed to be releasing first, and then Horizon 3 will launch in 2027.
I mean, I feel like this game, the online one, could do well, but I'm just like, would have been better just to have that as like an extra feature in the game, like having a multiplayer like mode bundled in with the game, because it could possibly do better. It does have the branding, but, and I mean, sure, Helldivers 2 did well, but there was Concord. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, Sony, do you really want to focus as much on multiplayer online stuff as you should be, when you could just, focus on your strengths, and build off that? Because it's not like they can't do this. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it, but, and of course they're focusing on a single player game, so it's not like they've abandoned the game to make, an online multiplayer cash grab. But to have it be its own thing, that's where I'm like, you could have just done something like have a multiplayer mode included with the base game and called it a day. Um, but I digress. The third game's still, based on the rumor, it's still coming, so it doesn't matter. The multiplayer game won't really have an impact at all on that aspect. But yeah, I mean, I think there's something wrong with this overall. It's definitely believable, and the fact that the page is gone, considering the fact that Insider Gaming has had other rumors that where they just said like, "Oh, this has been debunked," or "Oh, so and so added a comment that clarified this situation,"
Hmm.
as opposed to this page just being completely wiped. That kind of speaks volumes to me, and so we'll definitely see what happens in the future. But also 2025, I think that's also believable, because it's not like it's
2027.
oh, it's coming out. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
2027.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 2027. It's definitely believable because it's coming out a bit of ways where there's still time to work on the game, still give some polish to it and what have you. But if it said 2026, I'd be like, I didn't know about that one. But yeah, I can believe 2027. That seems reasonable to me. But yeah, that is what I have to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's very likely true, especially because the fact that the page got taken down. And unless they just republished it with like a different link or something, but um, you'd have to double check the page and see if there's anything further on there.
Yeah.
Either way, I'd say that this is happening. The one thing that I think would be good about doing the multiplayer title is that you wouldn't be stuck playing as Aloy because she's not exactly a likable character. Because I like the gameplay of the Horizon games. I think the gameplay is fantastic, but I don't like Aloy as a character. She talks too much, and it didn't occur to me how much she talked until I watched that video of the if the Dark Souls protagonist was a modern protagonist, because it's like that showed me, it's like, this is how much Aloy talks in the game. And like, it never bothered me because it's like that's all I had ever experienced with those games. But then when they did it with the Dark Souls game, it's like, wow, this is terrible. This is awful. I cannot believe they're doing this. I mean, obviously he was making fun of, modern games and how much they feel the need to hold your hand, but like I did not realize how much I had become desensitized to it until I saw it in Dark Souls, and I'm like, yikes. Because I have, in fact, I played Dark Souls Remastered multiple times, and that game does not have, I mean, it has very minimal guidance on anything, and just, it's hard to imagine. I mean, like, I'm so glad that Dark Souls has not actually gone that route, because it would just drive me bonkers if it did. And I think that in general, it probably wouldn't bother me as I don't think it bothers me as much in Horizon, because of the fact that that's the only way I've ever experienced those games. And most of the time, I honestly just kind of tune her out, because half the time when I'm playing those games, I'm like listening to something else. I'm not paying any attention to what she's saying. When it comes to the dialogue trees and all that, most of the time I'm just going with the main line stuff, because I just got so tired of hearing her talk. Like, I got nothing against the voice actress. I think it's Ashley Birch, I believe, is the name of the voice actress, and she's talented. Like, I like her as a voice actor in terms of her, how she, the capability things, like how she reads lines and everything. I like her voice, all of that, but it's just, she's very like girl bossy ish, but I don't know how to explain it exactly. It's I guess maybe not so much girl boss, it's very much know it all kind of thing, and so it's just borderline to the point where I can stand it. And for the most part, I just find I think that the lore of the game in general is pretty interesting, even if I thought Zero Dawn was very much a had a few too many tropes that were just like, I've seen this before enough times to where it wasn't shocking to me. But the way that it's executed, and I don't like dialogue trees. Like, I like them in certain situations. If the characters are interesting and likable and all of that, yes, I'm more interested in the dialogue trees. But so many of the games nowadays, their protagonists are not likable. Like, when they added it to Assassin's Creed, I hated that so much. I hated it so much. It was honestly the thing that killed Assassin's Creed Odyssey for me, almost as much as how bloated it was. It's just the dialogue trees. And it's like, I got to a point where I basically I ignore every side uh, dialogue option and I only do the main stuff because I'm just so tired of it. It's like, I don't want this in this game. I don't play this game for dialogue trees. I think the last time I like really was invested in a dialogue tree was probably Mass Effect, like the Mass Effect series. Um, in which case I would actually like listen to all the different dialogue trees. But BioWare was really good at the time, doing that kind of thing, and like they did with with Knights of the Old Republic, and I did all the stuff back then. But back then it wasn't nearly as prevalent and overdone. I did it to a degree with Zero Dawn, but it got to a point where I was so tired of hearing Aloy be like, I know everything and you know nothing because you just haven't learned all this stuff yet. And it's like, yeah, I get it. You figured out you have knowledge that other people don't have because of the fact that they haven't been exposed to all this old technology. And but can you just stop being so about it? Like, it's kind of a level of pride and arrogance, but not, I mean, it's not quite to the point of like Colin Moriarty levels, where it's just like everything out of my mouth, I'm smarter than you. Um Not quite to the levels of like Reforge either. Two people I can't stand. Uh but still just to the point where it's like, okay, yes, Aloy, you do have more knowledge than other people because you have this thing that basically you have access to the internet and nobody else does. That's essentially what it comes down to. She has access to the internet, and so she's been going down this autistic rabbit hole of learning all this stuff about the old world, and all these other people haven't learned these things. But there's a way to present it without coming across as a smart aleck, and you fail at that, which is why you're not likable as a character. Thankfully, the gameplay is solid enough to where I just kind of tune a lot of that out and pay attention to the main story, enjoy the gameplay, and that's it. So, that side tangent aside, I will still more likely than not play Horizon 3. I would say there's a very strong chance I will because what I played of Forbidden West, I've enjoyed. I still intend to get back to it and play some more, especially because of the fact that I have a portable option again. It's just a matter of when I decide to jump back into it and really get into it again. But the multiplayer thing, like, I think apart from, like I already said, of it having the option to play as someone that's not Aloy, it's also just the fact that there are potentially ways that they could make that an engaging multiplayer thing. I don't know how much it's going to have in terms of legs. I do think it definitely will have way more legs than Concord, but it's really hard for any other game to match, lasting for 2 weeks and then being shut down. There are not many games that have that claim to fame. And the ones that do are usually not $400 million titles. So, yeah, I think that's everything I have to say on that matter.
Yeah. Actually, something I just quickly wondered. So, what do you think? How do you think the multiplayer game would function then? Do you think it would be something kind of like Last of Us Factions, or do you think it would be another type, or do you think it would be like some sort of team-based, like, I don't want to necessarily say a hero shooter, but something along that lines? Like, how, I mean, like, or do you think it could be something maybe like Ghost of Tsushima Legends mode? Like, what do you think could possibly be the most likely outcome for something like this as a standalone title?
Right.
Do you think it could be like a paid or free to play?
I would hope that Sony would learn that free to play is probably the better way to go, because they can probably make a lot more money off of that than they would trying to charge for it. I mean, but that being said, I think the style of gameplay, probably it's basically going to be what you do in the single player game, except that you do it as teams. Like, you'll go around, you'll hunt the robots, and there'll probably be some like super strong robots that you basically have to do teamwork in order to get through it. Like you could potentially have raids of a sort where you have going through one of the cauldrons, which is like their dungeon things, but they make it like more complicated. I mean, like I don't think they're necessarily going to have a whole lot in terms of puzzles, and if they do, they're still going to hold your hand a lot because that's what they do. But just more in terms of the combat. It's going to be a combat focused game more than anything else, and combat cooperative. I think that that's probably what they'll do. I think it's something that will be fun at first, and then it will get old pretty fast. Except for the really diehard people who just really want more Horizon, and they don't really want to replay the single player games, or they've already replayed them multiple times, and so they want something new-ish.
Do you think it would be something you would try if it's maybe assuming also if it was like free to play? Would that be something you'd try?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not really interested in the multiplayer stuff in general because it's hard for me to find time to play with other people as it is. Usually, like when I have time to play games, I don't really have time to play games with other people because a lot of times I'll be playing something while my wife and I are listening to something on YouTube or have a TV show playing in the background or a podcast or something to that effect. And so it's like I can't really focus on listening to someone and communicating with someone at the same time. I mean, the only way I could see myself potentially doing it is if it was something where there didn't need to be any audio communication and I could just sit there and play it mindlessly while listening to something. Because I could do that in Destiny pretty easily most of the time, as long as I wasn't doing a raid. If I was just doing strikes and multiplayer, I mean, you're doing like PvP, that sort of thing, or even other regular PvE activities, it was pretty easy to play without having to talk to anybody. So from that standpoint, yes, I could see it potentially being something. Will I though? No. I would say the chances of that are slim to none because I just don't care that much. Like, I like the single player experience. The multiplayer does not appeal to me enough to where I want to spend time on that. I don't like games without like real progression in them anyway. If I'm playing something over and over and it's kind of pointless to me if it doesn't have an end to it, but then it also doesn't have progression that actually feels like I'm getting something out of it, then I'm not that interested. So,
Fair enough.
All right. I think that is. Well, I guess. Do you want to talk about any of those the other topics we have listed?
Yeah, those were just ones I had just like grabbed, so we don't necessarily have to talk about those.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I think we'll probably call it there. Of course, I don't have any listener questions this week. Do you have any subjects you want to talk about?
Yeah, so this is something that I had pulled or I had saved from last week. And this is something that while we both are PC gamers and we both have that as our preferred platform, obviously we both acknowledge that it is not perfect at any stretch of the word.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, what what few things, this doesn't have to be like a top like three or anything like that, but it can be like any type of order. But what are a few things that you would like to see improved overall that would make PC gaming better?
I would say the number one thing would be having better optimized games. Um,
Mm.
having games actually like developers take the time to make sure their game runs well on PC with a variety of hardware. Start with a low baseline and then work their way. I mean, basically make it so that the bells and whistles can be taken advantage of if you have a stronger rig, but make it doable. I guess with that, basically, it would be like optimizing a lot of games for Steam Deck. and other lower end hardware, because if they start with that, optimize it properly, then it should run much better on better hardware. And I guess I'm trying to think of. I know that there's like at least one other thing. It's just a matter of remembering what it was specifically. But yeah, I think really it's just optimization more than anything else. And a lot of games still come out and run great, um, but there's always room for improvement in the optimization with the majority of games. I think that like there's a handful of games that are super well optimized. Like I definitely say like Destiny 2 is a shining example of a game that's very well optimized for PC. Um, Even though it doesn't run well on the Steam Deck, but considering you can't run it without installing Windows, and of course running Windows from a micro SD card and the game from a micro SD card certainly do contribute to, or do not help with the performance. But that one I'm a little more forgiving about because of the fact that like it runs so well on so many other things. Like I mean, I could get 1080p 60 easily on my rig from 9 years ago, and I was like super happy with the performance of that. Of course, going from 30 FPS on the PS4 to on the PS, on my PC, solid 60 was a massive difference. And then of course, once I upgraded, being able to get 120 plus easily, and even being able to do that on my laptop, I'm just like, yes, thank you very much, Bungie, for doing a good job optimizing this game. But then you have other games where the optimization is just not good, like Oblivion. I mean, it runs, and it runs okay, but the fact that you can't even maintain 60, even on, like even the consoles where it's typically like, it's theoretically more quote unquote optimized, you're not even getting a solid 60 there. Or Monster Hunter Wilds.
Oh man.
That one is just so not optimized that it's just like, which is a shame, because like when you're running it at 1440p or better resolution, it actually looks pretty good. I mean, it's not, I think Rise overall looks better, but Rise also has a lot less going on in the environment. But yeah. Oh, here's the other thing. Getting rid of Denuvo and any other DRM that causes performance issues. I think some DRM doesn't really cause much of any performance issues. Like, Destiny 2, even with the DRM, runs great. But yeah, there's plenty of examples of games where you remove the DRM and you gain 30 frames per second that you didn't have before. Like they did that with, I think it was like one of the Resident Evil games recently, and Jedi Survivor is a great example of that, where you gain 20 to 30 frames per second once they got rid of Denuvo. It's ridiculous. It's like, I get it, you don't want people to steal your game, but if you're going to use DRM, use some DRM that works well without affecting performance so greatly. So, anyway, yeah, that's what I got for.
Yeah. Optimization definitely is a huge thing for me. As you said, while there are definitely games that run very well, there are also games that don't run well. And, it's a combination of the devs not, doing everything they can to make the game work well. In some cases, it's DRM, and in some cases, it's a combination of the two, which makes things even worse. So that's something that could definitely be improved upon greatly. And sort of as a side bit to that, I would really love to see more games, more publishers put their games on good old games. I mean, it's gotten better to a degree. And I mean, also recently, surprisingly, Konami put the Silent Hill 2 remake on good old games, which I was surprised about. I mean, granted, they've slowly been putting some games on there, like they put on, I think a few months ago. I mean, granted, this is like an older game, but they put Metal Gear Revengeance on there. and Capcom put I mean, again, they're the original games, but they put the Resident Evil games on there.
Mm-hmm.
So more games are coming over, but I would love to see more devs and more publishers put their games on there, because it's the only place where you can truly get a DRM free experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to some guys the other day, and they were saying like, yeah, it's good to just. One guy was saying, yeah, I've been just going ahead and just installing all the offline installers. So that way, I just have a hard drive full of my GOG games, and whenever I want to do something with them, I can just go ahead and play them essentially. Like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's a great thing, and it's just something that I really wish, like I said, more devs did with that. And so that's like the next thing I want to do. But another thing I would like to see, which would really help, I think, for some people who don't either care for or they just don't have enough a powerful enough rig where it is really just not something they can do, is just to have higher, or have the higher resolution textures and higher packs as standalone free DLC.
Yes.
So that way they can just download like the regular game. They don't have to worry about all the assets with that take up more storage space. So that way you can have a smaller download file. And if you want to have the extra, resolution, the higher texture packs, like the 4K, have that separate, and then have it a free DLC, and then people can just download it whenever they want to,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can go ahead and do that. Because sometimes we don't want to have 100+ gigs, 100 GB plus download files. Like,
Right.
it's not really nice sometimes. And and I feel like if they did that, it would be great. We could probably cut down the file size. I mean, granted, again, that probably comes to like file optimization in some aspects, but some of it is actually just the higher textures and stuff like that, and the higher, you know, other aspects. So if they put that as a special DLC, free DLC, obviously, then we would probably get games down to maybe like, I don't know, 75 gigs. It's maybe not, but maybe lower than that. So that's something that I would like to see as well, because it definitely would be nice to not have to have a game that takes maybe a tenth of a drive. But yeah, I think that's really, those are the only main things that I have that I would like to see fixed upon. And I mean, also, this is just like my own personal little wish list sort of thing here, but just have better Linux support. I mean, so far, from everything that I've played thus far, I haven't had any issues or any major issues. But I know that for the games that do, and these are primarily like multiplayer games, or like especially online ones and ones that have special uh, DRM, just have better support, and like especially the ones that I think it's easy anti-cheat. Like, Valve made it easy enough where you can just like flip a switch essentially, and the game will work underneath Linux. So just take that extra time just to flip that switch and just offer some Linux support.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Very good. All right. Well, I think that's everything. So let's get into our recommendations and dissuasions. Start us off.
All right. So my recommendation. Oh no, it's gone. All right. So I had it written down, so I'm gonna have to like pull this one from memory then. For my recommendation for the week, I am going to recommend Whoops. All right, it looks like my light died here. But my recommendation is going to be to try. Oh man, there was something that I. No, I can't remember. I can't remember. There was a very good dish that I wanted to try. All right, but yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna. Oh yeah. I'm going to recommend. Oops. Yeah. All right, never mind. All right, so new recommendation then. I'm going to recommend. This is something I've recommended before. Uh, Oh no, no, I'm never mind. I'm sorry. Now I actually remember my recommendation. My recommendation is going to be something I've mentioned before, and it is something that I have, started doing since it's gotten warmer. It's just going to be go out for walks. It's definitely a good time, now as things have gotten warmer. You can definitely go out and, I mean, of course, if you're in an area where it's not, possible, you can't do it. But if you do live in an area where it definitely is doable, I would recommend going out for, a nice good walk around your neighborhood or whatnot. And, it's good exercise, get some fresh air, and, it can be pretty relaxing as well. So if you can do it, definitely do it. I would recommend it. And, you know, a good way to get some steps in and whatnot. And also in conjunction with that, stay hydrated because of course it is getting warmer. Definitely make sure you have some fluids in you. So drink your water. But yeah, that's what I got for recommendations.
All right, good stuff. So, on a similar vein to going out for walks, uh, something that I did the other day after work, which I realistically should start doing during my lunch break. So, if you have, if you work from home and you have the ability to, try sometimes, if you are like dragging in the middle of the day, take a nap. Lay down for, even if you can only get 15 minutes, sometimes that's all you need to just get recharged. And I know that might seem like crazy to say that, but I have found on more than one occasion that a 15-minute nap was enough to basically, it was just like a 15-minute power nap. I woke up, I felt, like initially I felt really drowsy, but then as soon as I got like a little bit of caffeine in me, I felt great. And of course, it's also super helpful in those 24-hour streams getting 15 minutes in, because it's like, once I started doing that, it made it a lot easier to get through the remaining hours, even though last time still ended up being a bit of a challenge, at least until I got into Rebirth, to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But yeah, if you can, for me, I find if I can get like a 30 to 45-minute nap, I feel great afterward, and I need to try doing that during my lunch breaks when I'm at home more often, because it definitely helps. So, but I do have several other recommendations. So, one of them is in Expedition 33. If you want to go for the achievements and you decide, which one of which is defeating a boss without taking any damage, and you don't want to just wait until you can one-shot bosses with really powerful attacks, because that just feels really cheap, like a cheap way to do it. If you want to do it like completely legit, there is a certain boss that you can only face in Act 3. It is an optional chromatic boss, the chromatic Bouchiclier. It's on the Isle of the Eyes. He is easy to get that achievement done, because he basically only has 2 attacks. One of which is he will put down his shield preparing for countering, but the shield has like a mouth on it. If you shoot that mouth, that will take him out of the counter stance, so then he doesn't do anything. And then the other attack he has is a specific type of attack that shows up early in Act 2 that enemies do, and it's very easy to counter. It's very easy. There's a special parry. It's like you have the jump counter that's pretty easy to do, that you get pretty early on in Act 1. This one is even easier than that. Or, well, actually, no. I think the jump counter is the easiest, generally. But because of the fact that as long as you jump, the counter, you have a nice long window. But this one's still pretty easy. And for this particular attack that he uses, it's very easy to counter. And So if you want to get it legitimate and don't want to just wait until you can one-shot bosses, that's the way to do it. I definitely highly recommend that. It was very satisfying, especially because like I wasn't even expecting that to happen. I figured there wasn't any way I was going to happen, but you only had the two types of moves. One of them was an actual attack that was easy to counter, and the other one was easy to stop him from countering so that he didn't attack anymore. And it was beautiful. So the other thing is that if you, and I forgot to mention this earlier, there is a mod on PC and Xbox where you can get rid of the 30 FPS cap on cutscenes for Expedition 33. It's just called Clear Obscure Fix. You can look it up on Nexus Mods, and it's very simple to install. I don't know how easy it is to do on Xbox, but there is a mod. You can get an Xbox mod for that, so I imagine it's probably not too complicated. But on PC, it's like literally you download the file, you extract it into the game's main folder, and that's it. You don't have to do anything beyond that. Super simple, and it unlocks the frame rate on the cutscenes, which makes so much better. To the point where when I was watching a video and the cutscenes were at 30 frames per second, it was throwing me off. I got so used to the higher frame rate cutscenes. Did you install that mod at all?
I haven't installed it yet.
Do it.
But I definitely want to.
Yeah, it's worth it. Makes that part much better. And then let's see here. If you specifically with Expedition 33, but some other games as well, make sure that you check your visual settings if you're going from one device to another, like if you're using cloud saves, because some devices it will keep the settings independent depending on the device, but Expedition 33 is not one of them. So you'll end up having to, if you're playing between Steam Deck and PC, then on PC you're going to have to probably raise your settings, and the Steam Deck you're going to have to lower them, and it's just annoying to have to do that. So it just, if you don't think about it, you probably forget to do it. So it's better to just check your settings each time you move to a different device. And that is all I got for recommendations. So dissuasions.
All right, my dissuasion is going to be if you're playing a game that has manual saves and allows you to have multiple save files, do not accidentally overwrite the wrong save file. So definitely make sure you check and make sure you are saving with the right save file. I almost made that mistake with Birth by Sleep where I almost overwrote my endgame Terra save with the Ventus save file, and I barely dodged that bullet, and I would have just rage quit if I had done so. So do not just willy-nilly just save. Always make sure you check and make sure that you're saving in the right place. Otherwise, you could undo a whole lot of work there that you've done. So don't do that.
All right, my dissuasion is in Expedition 33. See the theme here. If you want to do the side content of the game, do not go straight into the final boss in Act 3 if you want to do those side activities. Because, I mean, I guess I should say, if you are the kind of person where finishing a story, it's hard to get yourself to go back into doing all the side stuff, do the side stuff first. Now, it will make you absurdly overpowered when it comes to the final boss, but it will kind of wrap everything up in a nice bow. And I found, like, even with having gone in fairly early with still a lot of stuff to do, I was pretty overpowered, and I did not struggle with the final boss at all, even on expert. But yeah, I kind of, I mean, like, now that I've gotten past the initial hurdle, I haven't had any problems, but I just know that in general, I like doing all the side stuff before I go into the final boss. I just kind of asked around what people thought, mostly because I didn't want it to be a situation where it's like, okay, I go into the final boss, and then after you beat the final boss and you load up the game again, it takes you back to just before the final boss. Because then just kind of like, I'd rather just do it the other way. So, but no, when you after you beat the final boss, you can. It doesn't take you back to before the final boss, but you can, go and do everything that you haven't done yet. So anyway, yeah, that's all I got.
Right.
All right, so where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. No new videos before, but like I said earlier, I do have the one video that is coming out hopefully Friday, but we'll just see when it actually happens, depending on editing. I'll try to get everything finished tomorrow and see if that works.
All right,
But yeah.
stuff. All right, well, you can find me on my YouTube gaming channel at the Frozen Gamer 87. Nothing new at this point. It's probably going to be a little bit before I have anything else up, but there are some ideas I have, and it's just kind of a matter of finding the time to do recordings that I need to do, and so on and so forth. So, no current updates on when any of that's going to happen. Just there's still plenty of stuff to check out, though. In the meantime, a lot of stuff that is more or less evergreen, in that you can view it at any time and it'll still be relevant. But that being said, I also have we also have the channel for the podcast. That's YouTube at the Orange Box Podcast, which is also on Rumble. And Rumble, it doesn't have the custom URL, but the episodes for both, well, I should say, the episode for YouTube usually goes live at 7 a.m. Central Time every Friday. For Rumble, it usually goes sometime after that on Friday. If I get the editing done early and make sure I actually remember tomorrow to upload and get it scheduled, then it'll go live at the same time on Rumble. But video version of the podcast, you'll be able to see not only our beautiful faces, but you'll also be able to see clips from games we've been playing, various, other things we've been talking about, whether it's clips or images or so on and so forth. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. But then there's the Orange Box Pod Clips, which hasn't been updated in a while, but whenever I get back into doing that consistently, it's going to just be clips from the podcast of the various segments we have for discussions. And that's on both YouTube and Rumble. And then we have the audio-only version of the podcast, which goes live on all major podcast audio platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and others I can't think of off the top of my head. That normally goes live at 12 a.m. Central Time every Friday, and has all the same content other than the video and seeing portions. So it's basically the same thing. And then, of course, lastly, I also have my YouTube cooking channel, Not Authentic But Delicious. That's YouTube at NABD Cooking. Eventually, those will also be up on Rumble. Haven't been any new recipes in a bit, but there's still a wealth of different recipes that you can check out on there. Right around 40 recipes. I think it's a little under 40. It's like 36, 37, something like that. But still, plenty of good recipes on there, so go ahead and check those out. And hopefully one of these days I'll start working on stuff and get more up again. It just hasn't been a priority lately. So, But that is... Oh, no, one more thing is that if you want to contact us, you can send us an email to the orangeboxpodcast@gmail.com. You can comment on the video version of the podcast, or you can send us a message on Twitter, either direct message or just a tweet, whatever you call it now, on X/Twitter, at the Orangebox Pod. And that should be everything now. So last chance, any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right, well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zaracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, don't throw flaming baby Gestrels. Orange Box Podcast out.